Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mimbar Karunia Lestari and my friend Dwi Styaningsih. Today we would like to present about quantitative research methodology, population, sample, subject, sampling system, sample size, and characteristic of good sample. First topic is about population. A population is a group of individuals who have the same characteristic. For example, all teachers will make up the population of teachers, and all high school administrators in a school district will comprise the population of administrators. As these examples illustrate, populations can be small or large. The researcher needs to decide what group she or he would like to study. The word population is different when used in research compared with the way the researcher thinks about a population under normal circumstances. In research, the word population refers to the units that we are interested in studying. Here's the units refer. First is about people, second is about cases, and the last is about pieces of data. Next, about sample. A sample is a group of elements or a single element from which the data are collected. It is often impractical and sometimes undesirable to try and study the entire population that is interested in. For example, if the population was frequent male Facebook users in Indonesia, this could be millions of users. If we choose to study this Facebook user using structured interviews or research method, it could take a lifetime. Therefore, a sample of this Facebook user is chosen to study. Next, about subject. A subject is an individual who participates in a research study or is someone from whom data are collected. For example, each person who is given a treatment and whose behavior is measured is considered to be a subject. The term subject may also identify individuals whose behavior, past or present, is used as data without their involvement in some type of treatment or intervention. Next, sampling in quantitative research. Sampling is a research process involving special methods to select a group of subjects of the research study from its parent population, enabling the researcher through its study to draw inferences about the characteristic of the population. The items selected from population are technically called a sample. Their selection process or technique is called simple design or sampling technique.
E. Probability or random sampling methods. The first is simple random sampling. Simple random sampling is a natural starting point and discussion of sampling because it is the simplest form of random samplings and it serves as the foundation for many other random sampling methods. Every random sampling technique is used simple random sampling at some point during the sampling process. Simple random sampling is a technique with the property that every element within a population has an equal chance of being included in the sample. The sample is oftentimes called a simple random sample. The second is systematic sampling. This method is used with lists, where the list is an appropriate sampling frame. The list can be either ordered or unordered. With systematic sampling, one determines the size of the sampling interval, or key, selects a random starting point between 1 and key, and then selects every key th element for inclusion in the sample. Like simple random sampling, systematic sampling is an EFSEM, but with one difference. Although each element in the population has an equal chance of inclusion in the sample, the probabilities of different combinations of sample elements being included are not equal. The third is stratified sampling. Stratified sampling is a sampling method in which population is divided into mutually exclusive groups called strata, and then simple random samples or systematic samples are selected from each of the group's 8 stratum. The fourth is proportional stratified sampling. Proportional stratified samplings are also called proportionate stratification and stratified sampling with proportional allocation, is one of the most commonly applied forms of stratified sampling. In proportional stratified sampling, the researcher creates a stratified sampling frame, determines the sample size for the strata such that the sample size are proportional to the population strata size, and then selects a random samples of the appropriate size from each stratum. As a result, the sample strata will be proportional to their size in the population and random in every other respect. The stratification of the sample will mirror the population stratification on the stratification variability, and it will mirror a simple random sample in every other way, or if random sampling is used to be obtain the elements from each stratum. The proportion in the samples are made to be the same as the proportion in the total population on certain characteristic. The fifth is disproportional stratified sampling. A disproportionate stratified sample is a type of stratified sampling in which the sample proportions are made to be different from the population proportion on the stratification variable. This type of sampling is sometimes used when the interest is to compare groups rather than making statistical generalization from the samples to the population. Next, F sample size. The sample size is the number of observations taken from a population. This is the part of the population that is selected for a survey or experiment and which is selected to make inference about the population. The sample size must be sufficient to present the population. The larger the sample size, the more accurate the findings of a study. Practical observation about sample size. These are some practical observations about sample size. The first is the larger the sample, the smaller is the magnitude of sampling error. The second is surface type studies probably should have larger samples than needed in experimental studies. The third is when sample groups are to be divided into smaller groups to be compared. The researchers initially should select a large enough sample so that the subgroups are of adequate size. And the fourth is in male questionnaire studies, because the percentage of responses may be as low as 21 or 30%, a largest initial sample mailing is initiated. The last is time, availability, and cost factors are legitimate consideration in determining the appropriate sample size. And next, the last F, characteristics of good sample. The first is goal-oriented. It's meant and should be oriented to their research objectives and fitted to the surface condition. And the second is accurate, representative of the universe. A sample should be an accurate representation of the universe from which is taken. There are different methods for selecting a sample. In brief, samples should be selected carefully as improper sampling is the source of error in the survey. The third is proportional. The sample size should be sufficiently large to provide statistical stability or reliability. The sample size should give the accuracy required for the purpose of particular study. The fourth is random selection. A sample should be selected at random. This means that any item in the group has a full and equal chance of being selected and included in the sample. The fifth is economical. A sample should be economical. The objectives of the survey should be achieved with minimum cost and effort. The sixth is practical. A sample design should be practical. The sample design should be simple, i.e. it should be capable of being understood and followed in the fieldwork. And the last is actual information provider. A sample should be designed so as to provide actual information required for the study and also provide an adequate basis for the measurement of its own reliability. Okay, that's all about the material. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.